Welcome back to the Depth Dive. Today we're settling in for something that feels a little bit like the morning after a really, really good party.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and that specific physical sensation, like you're a little tired, your feet definitely hurt from dancing way too hard.
Right.
But you're absolutely buzzing with that, did that really happen energy.
It's a very distinct vibe.
Yeah.
It's that hazy but happy space between the celebration and the return to real life.
Exactly.
And it is exactly where we find ourselves with today's subject.
Yeah.
We are unpacking the narrative architecture of the Miss Quita Girl show.
Yes, we are.
Specifically zooming in on the second episode, which is titled Recap and Road Ready.
Recap and Road Ready. It sounds like a checklist for a Monday morning.
Yeah.
Or maybe a self-help book title.
In a way, I mean, it is a checklist. The premise is that we are picking up the pieces the morning after this massive rooftop party that kicked off the series.
Right.
The characters are, as the source notes say, in recuperating mode. But what makes this deep dive unique, and why I'm so excited we're tackling this one, is that we aren't just looking at the script or the dialogue.
No, we have the gold mine. We have access to the production directives.
Exactly.
And for anyone listening who doesn't know, these are the actual notes from the creator to the cast and crew. It's basically the instruction manual for the show.
Right. These directives tell us what these characters are supposed to be thinking versus what they actually say out loud. It gives us this really cool God-tier view of the psychology at play.
Which is where the real drama lives. I mean, it lives in that gap between what actually happened at the party and what everyone thinks happened.
Yes.
It's a complete study in perception versus reality.
Precisely. This episode is effectively a case study in the unreliable narrator. We have characters constructing entire narratives in their heads that simply do not exist in the objective world.
Oh, absolutely.
But before we get into the complicated coffee orders and the sports cars, we need to address a foundational detail from the production notes right at the top.
Oh, the pronunciation check.
Yes, the pronunciation check for the protagonist.
I'm really glad we're catching this early, because if you're just looking at the text, her name is spelled Quita.
Right.
And I think a lot of people might default to reading that as Quita or Quita.
But the production directive is extremely explicit. It's capitalized in the notes. It is definitively pronounced Quita.
Quita. Got it. It's important to respect the source material. Names matter.
They do.
So let's set the scene. It's the morning after. Everyone is just dragging themselves out of bed. The glamour of the party is gone. The sun is up, and reality is setting in hard.
Yeah.
And where's the first place you go when you need to recover from a night of bad decisions and good dancing?
Coffee. It has to be coffee.
It has to be. The episode opens at a place called Art, Coffee, and Tea. It's this new spot in the building run by a character named Roaster Ryan.
Great name.
Right. Now, this scene isn't just filler or a way to get caffeine into the characters. It's an absolute masterclass in character introduction, specifically for Becky.
Oh, Becky. To understand Becky, you really just have to look at how she enters a room.
Yeah.
The notes describe her as having this chaotic energy. She doesn't just walk in to get a beverage. She treats the experience like a transaction that must revolve entirely around her.
Yes.
It's a power play, but a very frantic one.
She treats the barista, Ryan, like an NPC in her own personal video game, a non-player character.
Exactly.
She bounces in, full steam, and launches into an order that I actually wrote down because I didn't want to miss a single ridiculous detail.
It's a lot.
It is a monument to excess. Listen to this. She asks for a venti, half-calf soy latte, extra hot.
Okay.
Specific pump counts. 3 pumps of sugar-free vanilla, 2 pumps of white mocha.
And that is already a chemistry experiment before we even get to the toppings.
We are just getting started. She wants a drizzle of salted caramel on top and around the rim.
The rim.
Whipped cream, but only on one side.
How do you even do that?
I don't know, a dusting of cinnamon. And then, and this is my absolute favorite part, edible rose gold glitter.
Edible glitter. In a morning coffee, that just feels like a textural nightmare.
It does. But the real kicker is the vessel. She demands it be poured into a limited edition reusable mermaid tumbler with a rose gold stainless steel straw.
And here is where the production notes give us that fascinating reality check we talked about earlier. Becky is demanding a mermaid tumbler.
Right.
Now, listening to that, you know exactly what global brand she's referencing. She wants the massive chain store experience.
Yep.
But the notes explicitly state that Ryan owns a high-end cafe. He's an artisan roaster. He doesn't carry mermaid cups.
He's crafting art, and she wants a franchise. It's such a clash of cultures.
It really highlights her persona of living in her own world. And she isn't trying to be malicious, necessarily.
Yeah.
The notes are clear on that. She's not doing this to torture him. She's just so wrapped up in her own consumerist expectations that she physically cannot see the reality of the business she is standing in.
She's completely blind to it.
She wants a cookie-cutter experience in a boutique setting.
And poor Ryan. In his confessional interview later, he describes serving her as running an obstacle course.
Which is so accurate.
He says she was rattling off this 10-step order faster than he could write, and then she gave him a do-better side-eye because he forgot the glitter.
Which he likely doesn't even stock because, again, high-end cafe. Serious roasters usually don't have a glitter budget.
They really don't. And to show us just how out of touch Becky is, the writers give us a perfect foil immediately after. Enter Melinda.
The contrast here is intentional and very sharp. Melinda walks in, and the energy in the room shifts. The chaos just evaporates.
It really does.
Her order is the total antithesis of Becky's.
It's so simple. A grande latte, almond milk, lavender syrup, light cinnamon, boom, done.
It is elegant. It's specific. She clearly knows what she wants, but it's not demanding. And the production notes point out something very interesting here regarding Ryan's reaction.
Oh, yes.
There is a spark. Ryan isn't just relieved to have an easy order. He's smitten.
He describes her order as adding a finishing touch to a work of art. I mean, the guy is a poet about milk foam.
He really is.
He admits he's feeling butterflies. So you have Becky, who represents stress, noise, and chaos, and then Melinda, who represents calm, composure, and appreciation.
It establishes the baseline dynamic for the series right there in the coffee shop. Becky projects her needs onto the world. Melinda engages with the world as it is.
That's a great way to put it.
And that theme carries us directly into the next segment, which is the actual recap of the party.
Right, getting back to the episode title, Recap and Road Ready, we get these confessional-style interviews where the characters talk about the night before.
Yes.
Now, usually when you watch reality TV or a dramedy about a party, you expect the recap to be about who fought with whom, who threw a drink, who cried in the bathroom. You expect drama.
You do. That is the standard formula for this genre. But the source material here is very firm. The party was not drama. It was fun.
Just fun.
The production directive literally says, in all caps, the rooftop party was not drama.
Which is actually quite refreshing. It changes the stakes entirely. The conflict isn't about what objectively happened. It's about how everyone subjectively remembers it.
Exactly. It's basically the Rashomon effect. Everyone saw the exact same party, but their takeaways are wildly different.
Yeah.
Take Reese, for example. His recollection is purely physical comedy. The poor guy is physically broken.
He says his Jordans are still healing.
From a Saba challenge.
His Amateur.
And the notes mentioned he apparently nearly face-planted on the minibar. It paints this picture of wild, uncoordinated joy. There's no malice, just really sore muscles.
So true.
But then we have Caleb, and this is where the show takes a sharp left turn into something almost surreal.
Caleb and Mr. Vassar. I absolutely love this duo. For you listening right now who haven't seen the visuals, Mr. Vassar is a dog, a dachshund, I believe?
Yes, a dachshund.
And Caleb believes he is an animal psychic.
This is a tricky narrative device. Usually in a sitcom, you would assume the writers are telling us that Caleb is just delusional.
Right, like it's a gag.
Or that he's projecting his own thoughts onto the dog to deal with loneliness. But the production notes correct us on that assumption. They state that Caleb is not projecting his insecurities. The connection is described as complicated.
Complicated is doing a lot of heavy lifting there. So when Caleb says he built a fort out of pastry boxes for the dog?
That part is objective reality. That actually happened.
It's incredible.
Mr. Vassar spent the night in a mini fort out of empty pastry boxes eating mini eclairs.
Which is an incredibly cute image. Just a dachshund living his absolute best life in a pastry box fort.
It really is. But the psychic layer is where Caleb interprets the dog's inner monologue. He claims he tuned into Vassar's chewy cookie vibes.
Chewy cookie vibes.
He says he heard the dog plotting to boss everyone around and stash eclairs under the couch cushions.
I just love that phrase so much. Chewy cookie vibes. It's so specific. It's not, I sense hunger. It's, I sense the vibration of a chewy cookie.
It is highly specific. And the insight here for the viewer is that we shouldn't dismiss this as just Caleb being the crazy one. The show is hinting at a genuine layer of magic realism.
Oh, totally.
We don't fully know the extent of this psychic connection yet, but we are being told by the creators not to write it off as simple projection, unlike, say, what is happening with Becky.
Perfect transition, because that brings us perfectly to the biggest misunderstanding of the episode. The love triangle that isn't actually a triangle at all. It's more of a love dot.
A love dot that exists entirely in Becky's mind.
Exactly. So Becky is convinced, absolutely 100% convinced, that Roberto is into her. She says, and I quote, "It's obvious Roberto is into me. Like, who would not be into me?"
Classic main character syndrome.
Yeah.
She assumes the spotlight is always, by default, on her.
Always. But then she notices he was looking at Quita during the party. And instead of thinking, oh, maybe he likes Quita, or maybe he's just looking around the room like a normal person, she frames it as a rivalry.
Yes.
She calls Quita her new competition.
She interprets everything through a lens of her own desirability. She thinks she's in a competition that literally no one else signed up for. But if we look at Roberto's confessional, and the production notes back this up, the reality is completely different.
Roberto is just a nice guy. He's like a golden retriever in human form.
He really is. The notes explicitly say Roberto's really a nice guy by nature. In his confessional, he explains that he wasn't flirting with Becky specifically. He was on a one-man mission to hype up the whole crew.
Yes.
He was just bringing good energy to the party.
I loved his quote about this. He jokes that he needs a sign that says Roberto's Universal Compliments Hotline, just so people don't read into his friendliness.
It's a very funny line, but it also reveals a lot about the social dynamics at play here. Roberto is projecting positivity outwards to everyone. Becky is pulling everything inwards to herself.
Right.
She misinterprets his universal compliment as a specific romantic overture. And the notes clarify that Becky is the only character projecting like this.
The only one.
She isn't an intentional mean girl. She doesn't hate Quita. She just fundamentally misunderstands the situation because she assumes she is the center of the narrative.
It's so awkward, but it's so funny to watch. She's getting ready for a battle for his affection, sharpening her swords, and he's just standing there trying to be everyone's cheerleader.
Meanwhile, while Becky is building castles in the sky, Quita and Erika are making actual, tangible moves in the real world.
Yes, they are.
This contrast between the dreamers and the doers is really the engine of the episode.
So let's talk about the doers, because amidst all this confusion about glitter coffee and psychic dogs, there is a major career announcement. Quita reveals to the producer that she offered Erika a job.
This is another point where the production directives are absolutely vital for clarity. There is a very common trope in these types of shows where the main character moves to a new city and starts their own scrappy business.
Right.
You know, the girl boss startup arc where they work out of a garage.
Yeah, buying a printer and stressing about the Wi-Fi going down.
Exactly. But the notes correct that assumption immediately. Quita is not starting her own company.
She is starting a director-level position at a mega conglomerate called M&G.
Which changes the stakes significantly. It's not a scrappy startup story. It's a corporate takeover story. Yeah. She is entering a pre-existing, likely very rigid structure. She's going into the belly of the beast.
And she's bringing Erika along as her assistant. Erika's reaction in the confessional is just pure joy. She says she is floored.
The dynamic between these two is the emotional anchor of the show. The source notes emphasize that Quita and Erika are best friends, not just co-workers.
Right, it's deep.
This isn't the boss-employee dynamic in the traditional sense. Erika calls it a ride-or-die situation.
She literally says, these corporate snobs ain't ready for Ms. Erika or Miss Quita Girl. I just love that energy. It's them against the world.
It creates a very strong alliance. In a show full of misinterpretations, Becky misreading Roberto, Caleb misreading reality, Quita and Erika represent a grounded, loyal partnership. They are the ones actually moving the plot forward. They have a plan.
And speaking of moving forward, we have to talk about the car, the grand gesture in Act 3.
This is the visual peak of the episode.
It really is. So Gregory, who is this smooth, charming character, promised a big surprise for Quita, and he absolutely delivers. A red McLaren pulls up to the building to M&G The Heights.
It is an absolute stunner of a car.
Quita is shocked. Erika is cheering. And I think watching this or listening to the description, the immediate assumption is, whoa, he bought her a car. That's way too much. It's only the second episode. That is major love bombing.
And you would be right to think that's too much. That would be a massive red flag. Which is exactly why the production notes make a very crucial distinction here. Gregory did not buy the car.
And this changes the entire meaning of the scene.
It really does. The gift was not the object. The gift was the experience. The note says, and this is a quote, Gregory did not give Quita a luxury gift. He brought the gift over to let her test drive a luxury sports car.
That is actually so much cooler. It's way less possessive. It's not, I own you, so here's a very expensive possession. It's just, I want you to have fun.
It fits the vibe of the show so much better.
Mm.
It's about empowerment and enjoyment, not ownership. If he bought her the car, it creates a debt. Like, I bought you a McLaren, now you owe me.
Exactly.
By letting her test drive it, he's giving her a memory. And the scene description is just pure joy. Quita driving down Lakeshore Drive, the wind in her hair. She calls it pure freedom.
But we do have to address the elephant in the passenger seat. Gregory almost ruins the moment with the dad jokes.
He really swings for the fences with the humor. He just cannot help himself.
He actually says out loud, "Why did the McLaren blush? It saw all my curves."
It is painful. It's a total groaner.
It's so bad. But Quita admits in her confessional that she forgives him purely because the drive was so good.
Which shows she has a healthy sense of humor about him. She's willing to overlook the corny lines because the gesture, the experience itself was genuine. She isn't nitpicking him the way Becky nitpicked the barista. She is fully present in the moment.
And speaking of Becky, we cut to her on the sidelines watching this McLaren roar away. And this is interesting because she admits she's jealous. She says, "Why not me?"
But notice what she doesn't do. She doesn't tear Quita down. She doesn't say, "Quita looks bad in that car," or "I bet it's a rental."
Right.
She respects the glamour. She vows to get her own test spin later. It reinforces that note that she's not actually a villain. She's envious, sure, and self-centered, but she respects the game. She sees Quita in a McLaren and thinks, okay, challenge accepted, not I hate her.
It's almost a healthy-ish competition.
In Becky's mind, at least. She thinks they are playing the same game, even if Quita doesn't even know she's playing.
So that brings us to the end of the episode. Quita gives this closing monologue that basically lists everything that happened. She mentions Ryan's latte art, Melinda's couture pep talks, the treat heist by Caleb and Vassar.
That monologue serves as the ultimate synthesis. It ties all these completely disparate threads together. You have the grounded reality of the job, the high-end luxury of the car, the surrealism of the psychic dog, and the social confusion caused by Becky.
When you look at it all laid out like that, from the coffee shop to the sports car, what is the big takeaway here? What is this episode really telling us about these people?
I think Recap and Road Ready is fundamentally about the transition from celebration to reality. Episode 1 was the party. Episode 2 is, okay, now we have to live here. Now we have to actually work here.
Yeah.
It highlights how characters construct their own narratives to cope with that transition. Becky constructs a romance that doesn't exist to feel important. Caleb constructs a dialogue with a dog to feel connected.
And Quita and Erika.
They focus on tangible progress. They get the job. They drive the car. They aren't projecting. They're doing. And that seems to be the core distinction the show is drawing between the cast members. The doers versus the projectors.
That is a really fascinating way to look at it. We are all trying to write our own scripts, but some of us are actually acting in them, while others are just shouting directions at people who aren't listening.
That's the real danger of main character energy. If you're too busy directing the scene in your head, you miss the scene that's actually happening right in front of you. You miss the coffee because you're worried about the glitter.
So here is a question for you, listening to us right now. We live in a world where everyone is kind of the main character of their own social media feed, right? We're all a little bit like Becky, curating our own mermaid cup moments and hoping people notice.
We are. It's really hard to avoid in this day and age.
So in a world full of main character energy, how do we distinguish between a universal compliment like Roberto's and a genuine connection? Are you actually reading the room, or are you just reading the script you wrote in your head?
That is the dangerous question. If you assume everyone is just an extra in your movie, you're going to miss out on the actual co-stars.
Something to chew on while you order your next coffee. Maybe skip the edible glitter, though.
Definitely skip the glitter. It never comes out of your teeth.
That's it for this deep dive into Recap and Road Ready. We'll catch you on the next one.
Drive safe.